All right, everyone, this is hive number 2. I say hive number 2, and it looks like a nuke because I made a huge mistake a couple of weeks ago, and I'm trying to fix my mistake. I ordered, I did a hive inspection on August 2nd. Hive beetles. Did a hive inspection on August 2nd. Noticed some hive beetles in all of my equipment. So I ordered hive traps for all my colonies. Hive traps and Swiffer pads. I got everything that I needed. It was really hot in temperatures. So watching some YouTube videos, I listened at what some of them said. And to give them direct access to water to cool the hive, I stuck a bottle of water on the top. Did not stick any sugar in that water. So it was just plain water, not sugar water. Also didn't pay attention to the fact that I did not have honey stored up in the colonies. So what I ended up doing with my 5 hives and 1 nuke is I basically starved them to death. So what I'm left with now is 2 hives and a nucleus. I was able to find my queens. Actually, the queen that was in hive 1 actually came over to hive 2. So I ended up with 2 queens in hive 2. So I believe they have taken care of that issue. And if you can see now, they're storing sugar water because I've started feeding 2-to-1 sugar water so they can start storing up and getting ready for the winter. But I sure did. I starved my bees to death, so I lost 3 colonies. I did find 5 of my queens though. So I've got 3 queens in colonies. This colony had 2 queens, so I have a feeling they took care of that. So there should only be 1 queen in here now, because we didn't know which queen to take. Which queen was the hive's queen. So we didn't know. So what we have done is let the queen and nature take their course, decide which queen was going to run this colony. They make that decision. So there's a queen in here. There's a queen in my other 2 hives. In the 3rd hive, I have a queen banked because there was one in hive 5 which also died, and it was just the queen and a couple of the queen and just a couple of bees. So they're storing up sugar in this one. Another hive beetle. So what I have done so far, because I starved them to death, all the bees died, filled up the bottom of my bottom boards, just filled it slap full of dead bees. Well, the hive beetles took over, and I ended up with larvae all over my hive boards. Hive beetles everywhere. So we're trying to build the populations back up. We're trying to get them, stored up with sugar water for winter time, so they have food for the winter. Build up the bees of winter physiology. And that's kind of where we're at right now. I am feeding. Huge mistake, huge mistake. I thought I had lost all my bees. I see a bee on the bottom board right now just harassing the mess out of the hive beetle. That is great. So I've started putting Swiffer pads in my hives. They're catching a lot of hive beetles. I've started putting beetle traps with oil, 1/4 inch of oil in my hives. They're catching beetles. Small hive, I wanted to see the queen, you know, to see if I have a queen. They're on the top trying to dry out this sugar water, get it ready to start capping over. So far I have not seen the queen. Hopefully we have a queen in here. Also, with all of the bees dying from starvation and the takeover of the hive beetles, I believe I also ended up with a lot of robbing. You can see here where a lot of the comb was just chewed out. So I believe I had a lot of robbing, because when I finally came back out last Tuesday to check them, there was literally no bee bread, no honey, nothing in none of these hives. So I've started putting these beetle traps in. And I've started putting the Swiffer pads in. And the Swiffer pads seem to be doing a great job. The beetle traps seem to be doing a good job. I have put robber screens on the front. Hive beetles. Tons of hive beetles. That was my issue that I was having before. If you get a hive beetle, don't wait. Work with them immediately. Look at that, Swiffer pads. I'm a fan of the Swiffer pads, the Beetle Blaster. Yeah, I had too many hive beetles in my hive. Starving them to death, that made the bees mad. Or starving the bees to death killed the bees. The hive beetles just took over. Look at that. Robbed out. Look at the hive beetles on that. Man, the hive beetles are... Hive beetles, good grief at the hive beetles. All right, I see the queen on this frame. She is right there on the lower left of the screen. Now she's kind of in that corner. She is laying eggs. I've got eggs and larvae, all different stages. Because of last week, my really terrible treatment of my bees, I starved them to death. There was absolutely no eggs, no larvae, no cap brood, nothing. So I've been feeding heavily the last week today, 2 to 1. There was a wax moth. We need, they sure need to build up. I sure set these bees up for failure. Did not mean to. That was completely my fault. Preventable. I really like these Swiffer pads. The bees fray them up a little bit more. The hive beetles get caught in them. You get rid of hive beetles. Once the hive gets a little bit stronger, I'm going to do what I can, keep doing what I can do now to get rid of hive beetles. Help them out as much as I can. As soon as they get strong enough, they will start chasing the hive beetles across the top of these boards. Wow. Okay, this is my last hive. And wow, at the bees on this inner cover. I have a shim in about the screen bottom board. Because I have one of my queens right here. Alright, one of my queens that I found that it didn't have a hive for, I have her right here, banked. And she's still alive. I have got to get her in a hive as soon as possible. I have got to get her in a hive as soon as possible. All right, this hive right here did not die, was really strong, had the queen. I didn't have any issues with this hive other than hive beetles. But the hive beetles didn't take over this hive. But again, they did not have any sugar water. So I started feeding. And they are the 2-to-1, and they are storing sugar water. So they are getting themselves ready for the winter. Which I would have had 6 hives getting themselves ready for the winter if I would have fed August 2nd instead of just putting plain water. In the bottom right there, you can see the queen. So I have a good queen. I've got eggs and larvae on this frame. Eggs and larvae, some stored honey on this one. Eggs and larvae on this one. Capped over brood, larva. Okay, so this hive is doing well. Drawing out, storing honey. Yeah, they're drawing this frame out nicely. Yeah, they're drawing all these frames out real nice. All right. Again, I have a robber screen on this one because this is a strong colony. I definitely do not want to let this colony get robbed. I've already ruined most of my hives. If I can go in the winter with these two 10-frame hives and that nuke, and I can make it through the winter, I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy. I think this time I'm going to put the Swiffer pads above the queen excluder. Well, I got to put the oil trap back in and then center my frames up. Here I go messing up again. All right, so queen excluder. Put our shim on. That way we can put our banked queen right back in here. I'll talk to my club tonight. We have a meeting and see if we can come up with an idea of how we can give that queen a home. And this right here shows you that feeding, they are drawing out the comb. Wow.